Hello again. This time we're going to be talking about the union operator. And so when you think of union, you think of joining together, but it's not like our other segment where we're joining tables together. What the union operator does is it joins our results together. So essentially, we're basically performing two different queries, and then we're joining the results together, creating a union of the results of the two queries. And so in order to do that, there are some constrictions. We have to have the same number of fields in both queries, and they both need to be the same data type. The fields need to be the same data type. Oftentimes, you're going to use the same field. For example, like client ID. You're going to use the same field for both queries in the union. And so, when you do that, obviously it's going to have the same data type. But those are the restrictions. You need to have the same number of fields in the same data type because it's returning results. So if you have, if you ask for 3 fields in one query and then 4 fields in another query, it's not going to make sense and it's not going to look right. So the other thing about unions is that sometimes you're going to get duplicate results, and we'll take a look at that here in my example here in just a second. But the union operator typically is smart enough to see that and recognize that and remove any duplicate rows. So let's look at an example. So I'll create a new query using squall. And then, so for this query, what I'm going to essentially do is I'm going to look at two different things. I'm going to look at projects that are assigned to the employee ID number 63. And then I'm also going to look at any project that has a start date after January 1st, 2021. So we're doing two different queries, but we're going to combine them with a union into just one result. So let's start off with any of the projects that have a start date after January 1st, 2021. So we're going to select project ID, project start date, and employee ID, because we want to see which employee is tied to the project. Because again, our second query is going to be any projects that are assigned to employee number 63. So we need to see the employee ID in order to do that. So this is going to be from the projects table, and our where clause is going to be any of the project start dates that start after, and then don't forget our date format, January 1st, 2021. Great, and that's our first query. And then we just simply create a union. And then we have our next query. So this one, again, we need to have the same number of fields, same data type. So I'm just going to use the exact same 3 fields. This is going to be from the same table, right? So that's why I'm able to use the exact same fields. So that's going to make it easier. And then my where clause is going to be where employee ID is equal to 63, and that's right, they have this field as a text field for some reason. So all right, so we're going to look at all the results of any project that started after January 1st, 2021, as well as any projects that are assigned to number 63. So we run this, and there we go. We get 18 records. So we can see, right there, all of the projects assigned to employee number 63, and then right under that, so that's this group here, any projects assigned to employee number 63, and then this group is any project with the start date after January 1st, 2021. But you can see that we do have some in here that are still assigned to employee ID number 63. So this is what I was referring to earlier, where the union kind of automatically gets rid of any duplicate record, right? Because if it didn't, then all of these records right here would also show up in this group here, and they would be repeated. So the union kind of sees those duplicate records, and just gets rid of the duplicates. So that's pretty helpful. So 2 different queries, 1 result, and that's using the union function. So, yep. So yeah, you'll notice that when we run this query happens first, and then this query happens after it. So yeah, so obviously when we run this, if we look at the projects table, all right, if I just kind of sort this by project ID, we can see 63, all of the projects assigned to them, right? And there are those 3 that start before 2021, but most of them start after that January 1st date, right? So in this first query, we're going to return all of the projects that he's assigned to, all 8 or 9 or however many there are of them. And then our second query is any project after January 1st, which again includes records of employee 63, but the union will filter out all of those duplicates. So that's pretty great. And so that's, just using one table, which makes it easier. You can just select the same columns and things like that. So let's kind of switch this up a little bit. And so now I'm going to incorporate another table. And so I'll do that by using this alias that I keep using because I kind of like it. Last name, whoops. As employee, good. So now I need to add the employees table to this query. And then I also need to have my joining of the table. So this is going to be projects employee ID equal to employees dot employee ID, and this will allow me to create this alias. And then in my second query here, again, the fields have to match, so I'm gonna do that as well. So for this one, we'll also include the employees table, and then our projects employee ID. Same thing up here. All right, so now let's run this. Right. So because I've added the employees table to the projects, this employee ID field now exists in both tables. So now I need to fully qualify it, right? So we're going to specify projects. Good. And now we can run it. And good. And so there we get the same 18 records, same information. The first 3 are the projects that are assigned to employee 63, but now we've gone ahead and joined the employees table to it so that we can get the employee's name instead of just the employee ID number, right? So now we know that employee 63 is Nathan Geller. And then after those 3 records are all of the projects that start after January 1st, 2021. And again, we've now translated the employee ID into the employee's name, including more Nathan Geller. So that's pretty awesome. So I said the constraints for using the union is that you need to have the same number of fields and that the fields need to be the same data type. In this example, I have just been using these same exact fields, but they don't have to be. So let me show you this. So I have my conjunction here, my concatenation, and then an alias, which is basically this newly generated column, this newly generated field that I called employee. So let's just change this back to employees dot employee ID, because remember our employee ID is in fact a text field, right? As is this. So this should work. So up here we're gonna have our employee field, our alias with first and last name. But in the other half of our results, we're going to have just the employee ID number. And so we should see the employee ID number for any of the projects where 63 is assigned to. So we run that, and good. So there, that actually worked pretty successfully. So that's pretty great. We still have our first and last name, our alias field, and then the employee ID for the second query. So super helpful stuff. So that's using the union operator. Yeah, just a different example there. Good. So I hope this was beneficial to you guys, and we'll see you in the next segment.